Welcome on back to a new episode of the N Harmon Show. I'm Dalton Wicks alongside my man Eric Harmon.
Dalton, this week's episode, we got MLB headlines for you, including the trade deadline and the local updates from our squads in the Bay Area. We got NFL offseason news. Finally, let's get to it.
Lots of cool stuff to get into today. Yes, finally, we're getting into that NFL
It's
football
been a while. It's
update.
been a while.
Just hasn't been a whole lot going on, so we decided to package a lot of the stuff together and just have a nice longer segment for you. But we're going to finally get caught up with that today. But first, we're going to be leaping into what's current, and that's baseball. Still lots of baseball going on.
Big news in baseball.
Craziness in baseball lately with the trade deadline and everything going on there. So without further ado, let's get on into it.
How many? So many moves. How many teams did you say made moves this
27, I believe.
27.
There's 20. Wow. At least 90% of all the major league teams made some sort of trade.
What?
That's nuts.
That's crazy. Like, compare that to the other three main sports, and I've got to say that's probably got to be the most, right? Basketball doesn't trade that much. No, yeah, it is without a doubt the best league for transactions.
I think what made this more interesting is the fact that this trade deadline seemed really lame at first. But then
a lot of talk.
A lot of. Well, there wasn't even. I think that was part of the reason was that there wasn't a whole lot of firepower out on the market. Not a lot of people could be had at a certain price, and there was a lot of talk about, oh, these guys are way overpriced, so these guys aren't going to move. They're going to stay put. So we were just going like, oh, well, who is going to move then? But it turns out when the day actually came, and it came down to the wire, everyone was willing to meet those asking prices.
Yeah, you're right. Everything up until the trade deadline, it was all Jay Bruce talk. It was all Jay Bruce talk, I feel like. And and then it just broke. Just the dam blew up. Water came flowing through in the form of trades. Like, it's just amazing. Like, just looking through just all the acquisitions, I'm just like, okay, we had a good trade deadline.
So why don't we go ahead and start it off with the Yankee relievers getting dealt, the two big ones. First, we'll go in chronological order here. Aroldis Chapman, the flamethrower, heads from the Cubs from the Yankees to the Cubs. Does this automatically lock them in as favorites to win the World Series now?
I don't know.
Can you acquire a better reliever than the guy who has thrown the fastest pitch in Major League history?
The answer to that question is no, you can't acquire a better reliever. So, yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought of it in terms of pushing them over the edge. But really, is there another team right now who would be the favorites for the? I think it's the Cubs, and this just further reinforced. I mean, the Giants have fallen off recently in the past month, so I think it's just the Cubs. Like, the Cubs are the team to beat at the moment, so they just went from being the World Series favorites to now having 105 mile per hour throwing closer, which is just, oh man, it's gonna suck. But it's gonna be great when they have in the playoffs their crazy Cubs magic that somehow means Aroldis Chapman's going to throw 69 miles per hour and give up a grand slam at just the most inopportune time, because that's what happens to the Cubs. But, I mean, realistically, this is a really, really, really good move.
I agree. I think this is a win-win for both sides because you look at the Cubs, they get their big dominant reliever. Like you said, they're going to bring him in now. That's what they needed. Well, their bullpen wasn't absolutely just crappy, but they did completely solidify because now they can slide Hector Rondon in the setup role and throw him in at closer, and they've got a dominant back end of that pen now. But at the same time, now from the Yankees' perspective, at first when it seemed like they weren't going to make any moves and try to stand pat because, we're the Yankees, 27 rings, we try to contend every single year. That's kind of their mantra they go by. I think this was really smart by the Yankees to do this.
They got so many assets.
Absolutely. And the guys I'm going to look at here is for 2 months of a rental of Chapman, they get back Gleyber Torres and Billy McKinney. Billy McKinney might ring a bell to some of you A's fans out there. He was part of the Jeff Samardzija and Jason Hamill trade that also sent Addison Russell over to the Chicago Cubs. So he's been flipped twice now in the past couple of years, and he's going to make his way over to the Pinstripes. But yeah, Gleyber Torres is the big prize here, shortstop / third baseman, big-time prospect that the Yankees got. Maybe a guy that can take over for Jeter or A-Rod in the near future. And then also they get Adam Warren back, who used to be on the Yankees but was sent to the Cubs in the Starlin Castro trade, so he's going to come back to the Yankees now. And then they also get another pretty decent prospect in Rashad Crawford, so nice haul. A really nice haul for one dude.
Yeah, Gleyber Torres is 19 years old. I mean, that guy is a young prospect, a stud. He's still in the high A, so he's got some time to develop. But, I mean, they got a haul with that. And that's not the only haul they got. They made another move.
They did. And the other move they made was they sent Andrew Miller to the Indians. And a lot of people thought after Chapman was moved that maybe that's it. Then they're going to stick with Betances and Miller, mainly because Betances and Miller both have team control for the next couple of years. But Andrew Miller was moved as well. The Cleveland Indians wanted him, mainly because another trade didn't go through that we'll get to in a little bit, but they pull the trigger on this Andrew Miller deal, and wow, the Indians are going for it this year.
Yeah, oh yeah. They pick up Andrew Miller. Yankees are getting, what are they getting? They're getting Clint Frazier, Justice Sheffield. That's a great name, by the way, Justice.
Frazier was the big piece in that trade.
Yeah, he's AAA. He's killing it in the AAA. He's got a line of 278, 360, 452 in AAA this year. 5th overall pick in the 2013 draft. So he's got a lot of potential. You've got
Justice Sheffield, by the way, is going to be the new top pitching prospect for the Yankees. They acquired him also. So those were the two big boys they acquired in that trade, was Frazier and Sheffield. They just pulled off another heist with this trade.
Mm-hmm. And they got two other guys, too, that are going to come out to just be projected to be middle relievers. But, I mean, you're just saying and more and more and more. It piles up.
It's just more and more depth.
It just piles up when you're making trades. So that's like they got, when you get four prospects at least for two guys, you're getting 8 guys bringing into your system. Several of them highly regarded in the minor league systems. You're winning. You're winning because now the Yankees have prospects, and oh wait, the Yankees still have Yankee money. So it's gonna be. They've got the ability to make so many moves now. It's going to be just how is Cashman, or is that Cashman?
Brian Cashman.
Yeah, Brian Cashman. Yeah, how is Cashman going to be creative and put that winning team together, because he has the assets both in money and in players now.
Yeah. The Yankees are in a great position now. Absolutely just outstanding, because they also made another trade, which we'll get to in a little bit, that brought in even more prospect power. But these two moves specifically, I think, needed to be made. This year is kind of a lost year. They just don't have the firepower to make a good run for contention. They had too many old guys on the team, bad contracts, so they just need to kind of fizzle out the end of this era and then infuse a lot of young talent, and they've done a great job at rebuilding so far. I'm actually proud of the Yankees
for some smart GM decisions.
Yeah.
Agreed. After seeing all that overspending in the past years, I can feel that.
Yeah. So the other team that made a couple of big moves, and it kind of includes the Yankees as well, is the Texas Rangers. So the Texas Rangers acquired 3 big-time players to help out with their team. First, the biggest guy they acquired, Jonathan Lucroy of the Milwaukee Brewers, catcher. Phenomenal season so far from Lucroy, one of the better all-around catchers in the game. It's probably him and Posey, and then just a bunch of other guys not near their level right now. So Lucroy, big addition there, and it was a absolutely huge haul for the Brewers as well. The trade was officially outfielder Lewis Brinson, who's a big-time outfield prospect for the Rangers, one of their top ones in their whole system. And then Luis Ortiz also heads over to the Brewers, and I think a player to be named might be added as well. And then Jonathan Lucroy heads to the Rangers, as well as Jeremy Jeffress, the closer for the Brewers. He's had a very nice season, I'd say, for the Brewers, so he's another piece they can use in the bullpen. The Rangers bullpen isn't exactly that great right now, so he's going to be a welcome addition. What do you think about this?
This is a good trade, because not only are these guys good players, they're going to be able to. These aren't rental players at all. Lucroy has got a cheap player, or I don't know if it's a cheap player option or club option. Club option, yeah, club option. So it's even better. $5.25 million. Yeah, exactly what you said for next year. And then Jeffrey is also very cheap. He hasn't hit his arbitration yet. Got a pretty good sinker that's allowed him to pick up 27 saves this season. So acquiring 2 good players. It's not the only moves they made. They also got that Carlos Beltran out there over in New York. And
I was gonna say you probably know a little something about acquiring a Carlos Beltran.
Yeah, and
at
it
the,
seems
at
like
the deadline.
It seems like the return for Carlos Beltran hasn't diminished in the 5 years. It seems like it may even gotten even more
So Carlos Beltran was flipped for Nick Green, Eric Swanson, and Dylan Tate. Dylan Tate is the big name there, another big time prospect
pick,
in the Rangers organization. Yep, and I think Beltran, you could make an argument that he's been worth that haul this year. 304 batting line, 22 homers, 64 RBIs, and OPSing at 890.
Yeah.
But no stolen bases.
Well, damn.
Yeah. And, I mean, mainly Texas is acquiring him for a Prince Fielder replacement. And if anybody remembers from the last week's show that I recommended the Rangers replace Prince Fielder with Carlos Beltran, boom.
Yeah! Winner. All right, congratulations. Called that shot. I got to give you some props for that.
It made sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose Fielder, who's been a pretty big disappointment all season long, and Beltran's just a guy you can plug in there. He's a veteran. He just knows how to go in there and do a job. So.
Yeah, it seems like moving teams has never affected Carlos Beltran, so they should expect the same production from him.
He's been on a lot of teams in his career, considering how well he's played. It's a little odd, actually.
Yeah, I forget.
From the Royals to the Mets to the Giants, Yankees, now Rangers. It's at least 5 teams he's played for. And he's actually been. You could argue he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that a guy who puts up that much production would be a trade ship, but I guess he's just been on some bad teams who at the end of the year are just like, we need to offload him. Like, he's made some bad free agency choices, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, the Yankees bring back another little haul there as well, and the Brewers did okay with the Lucroy haul, and now the Brewers can at least move on from Lucroy, try to get some other young catching blood in there and start getting some more reps as they continue a long rebuild. And now the Yankees are well positioned to contend a few years down the road. As soon as guys like A-Rod and Teixeira and Sabathia and all these guys' contracts come off the books, then I think they're really gunning for that free agent class of not this year but next year, when you got the likes of Bryce Harper. And
God!
Maybe not next season, but I think the next winter and then the winter after that are some big time guys. Like, you'll see Josh Donaldson hit the open market. Like I said, Bryce Harper's going to hit it soon as well, and there's a lot of other huge names that are due to hit that within the next couple of years. So I think the Yankees are priming themselves for that.
That's
open
gonna be
market.
Scary. That's going to be scary. I just went from being excited about the Yankees to being scared about the Yankees because you said Bryce Harper, and I was like, oh, they're going to give him $500 million. Easy.
Because then by that time, then you're going to have guys like Clint Frazier, who they acquired, and then Dylan Tate and all these guys that are going to be up. They'll be in the big leagues, and then you're going to add and splurge on guys like a Harper or something like that to put around them, and wow, that's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
All right, so another trade that we can talk about, Jay Bruce, the elephant in the room, one of the most highly debated guys that's going to get traded over the past couple of years now, it seems. It just never seemed like the Reds were going to hold on to him long term. There's been lots of trade discussions about him. He's actually, fun fact, the first time that an RBI leader for his league has been traded at the trade deadline since 1920.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's kind of nuts. He was leading the National League in RBI. Well, he's still in the National League with 80 RBIs. He moves from the Reds to the Mets. So Jay Bruce, welcome to New York, not the Pinstripes, but the Mets. I think this is a bit of a questionable fit, and here's why. The Mets have 4 outfielders now who all play the corner, and that's Jay Bruce. Yoenis Cespedes is technically their center fielder, but he's way better used as a left fielder or corner outfield. Curtis Granderson and also the young guy Michael Conforto. All 4 of those guys are better played at the corner position. And so they've got 4 corner outfielders, and they need to fill that center field role still. I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah, it seems like their thought process is they're a little bit afraid that Cespedes might be leaving soon. And
Cespedes has been up front saying he doesn't like playing center just because of the fact that he feels he's more prone to injury in center.
Yeah, and on top of that, it seems like they really were making that deal because he's not just going to be a rental. He'll be able to play next year, which kind of infers that they have him slotted into that corner outfield positioning. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you have 4 corner outfielders and you don't have a guy to play center, you're gonna have to make a move or pull someone up pretty soon.
Yeah. So one of the big pieces heading to the Reds in this deal is Dilson Herrera, who was at one time a pretty promising infield prospect for the Mets. Kind of struggling a little bit this year with a 215 average, only 6 dingers and a 690 OPS, but still quite young. He's only 22 years old, so I mean he's got a lot of time to develop still. And he can play all over the infield, second, short, third, so he's a nice little piece to acquire, as well as they also get prospect Max Wodel, who's a pretty decent pitching prospect in his own right. So I think it was a decent deal for the Reds. They might have been able to get a little bit more out of that, but what happened is the first deal they acquired when they announced the swap of Bruce was actually either put on hold or there was a lot of problems occurring because of injuries. We've been seeing that happen a lot over the past couple of years with injury stuff coming up with when they're reviewing the medicals. So the first agreed upon deal was actually restructured into this one. And there were other names involved, but Dilson Herrera was added to the restructured deal.
Yeah, it's another one of those situations where I feel like teams are just
Baltimore Orioles-itis.
Yeah, exactly. Like hiding an injury, trying to do something, or not even hiding an injury, like you're saying, Baltimore Orioles-itis, like regretting the trade that they made and wanting to go back on it.
Constantly looking at the medicals like, what is wrong with you?
If
I find one thing, if he chipped his toenail, I don't want him.
His big toe is he's got a bunion, so we're going to need to cut him. But, let's see. Reds, the Reds, this move for them, what was the name of the guy that they picked up?
Dilson Herrera and Max Wodel.
The problem with Dilson Herrera is that he doesn't really fit at a position when they're going to develop in 2 years, so it's probably more of a move
Well, he could take over for Brandon Phillips.
That's true.
But they do have Jose Peraza, too, who's also a second baseman, so that's a bit of a logjam there. But, I mean, Dilson Herrera can also play shortstop if they get rid of Zach Cozart, too. I think there's some pieces they can move around to fit him in. He's so young.
Yeah, exactly. It made the Reds younger. They have more team control now over their players, which is a big thing for them. And they shed a lot of salary, too. So, I mean, those 3 right there.
He could even make a useful utility man, just a guy you can bring off your bench who can play a few different positions. So, it was a solid pickup, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the guy Herrera's batting, .299 in career in the minor leagues, and he's going to be under team control at least till 2022. So, that's a bright spot for the Reds moving forward if they find a place to slot him in and decide we're gonna move him again, but who knows.
Yeah, not bad. All right, I want to get into, speaking of these weird trade scenarios and weird things that went on, did you hear about this fiasco going on with the Marlins and Padres and the Andrew Cashner deal?
I didn't.
So Andrew Cashner and Colin Ray were originally sent from the Padres to the Miami Marlins. The main pieces heading back to the Padres were the injured Carter Capps, who's a very, very good reliever, by the way, but he's been injured all year. He's going to be out for the rest of the season due to a major injury, but he's still very talented. He heads back, and then Jared Cozart, who's also had a little bit of a cup of coffee in the big leagues, he's heading back, and then a few other minor leaguers. But so the main deal was Colin Ray and Andrew Cashner both head to the Miami Marlins because they needed pitching depth. They already acquired Fernando Rodney for the bullpen, so they were starting to make some moves. Mm-hmm. So what happens is Cashner was the big piece, but they also really liked Ray because he's young and he's got team control. So Colin Ray makes his first start with the Miami Marlins after the trade, goes 3 1/3 innings, and leaves the game due to an injury.
That's terrible.
In his first start.
Oh, man.
So what happened was, I don't know whether it was a pity reacquisition or whether the Marlins actually were threatening legal action or whatever, but they actually retraded Colin Ray back to the Padres for one of the players that they sent to the Padres.
Wow.
Yeah. So Luis Castillo was one of the minor league prospects that they sent to the Padres, and they flipped the players back. So Colin Ray was a member of the Marlins for 3 1/3 innings and then was traded back.
Yeah, that just brings up like so many more questions. Like, are they? That makes it seem like one team knew about it.
Yeah,
and
it
like
really does.
the other team is like, we're gonna make this trade back, but that's knowingly trading or an injured player in the first place and not disclosing it. I mean, it looks like they're just trying to keep this all under wraps, but that looks pretty dang illegal to me.
Yeah. See, there was that way you could look at it where it was like, okay, the Padres might have known about this injury and then they made the trade anyway and tried to dupe the Marlins. But then there's also a lot of other people who were looking at it in the point of view that, hey, it was a done deal and he was sent over there and they reviewed medicals and everything. And, like, once the trade's done, it should be done. And then, like, if he gets hurt, tough beans. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there was two ways of looking at it. I don't know. I'm not going to really pick sides there. Whatever.
Yeah.
It happened. I mean, the main guy they wanted was Cashner. So they get Cashner still. They swap back those two players. But I just thought that was really, really interesting. You never see that.
Yeah, that's going to create some bad blood between those two organizations at a GM level, because one GM's saying, hey, you guys sent us a player who was hurt. The other GM saying, hey, he was healthy when he sent him. Like, that's exactly what breeds, like, content in the league. And, I mean, maybe we'll see some Padres-Marlins games getting a little heated in the future. I mean, we already saw Andrew Cashner making some news, not really trade-related news, but did you see what happened in his game against the Cardinals? His start?
I did not.
Well,
he shaved. That's a big one.
He shaved, yes.
He had to due to apparently the Marlins have this Yankee policy installed that I never even knew about. But
it's kind of stupid. It's Miami. Like, what are you doing?
It's hot there.
That's true. Hot. That's true. But so Cardinals. It was basically the Cardinals threw at Giancarlo Stanton, and Cashner threw at one of their young guys. And said after the game, well, that's the Cardinals for you. That's the way they play over there, basically.
That has been kind of rumored about, that the Cardinals play a little dirty like that, where they throw up and in a little too often. Yeah. So that's interesting. We might want to monitor that going forward for the rest of the year, and they may want to keep an eye on their pitchers.
Yeah.
Not let things get out of hand, because you'll start getting warnings tossed both ways, and then maybe benches clearing. You don't want all that.
Yeah, it was. Cashner went after him.
He looks weird, though.
He does look weird without a beard.
Without his beard.
I just looking at pictures of it, and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't like it whatsoever. Like, that beard is just, like, beautiful. As a beard man myself, like, I see that, I'm just like, oh my god. And then you see, like, he has like a hair flowing out the back, and just he looks like an 80s party guy, basically. Like, party in the back, work up front is basically the look.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's an interesting look. It's an interesting look. You need to fix it up, Cashner, right? Fix it up just a little bit.
A couple other big trades we want to touch on. Another big time closer moving trades. This guy has been under the radar for quite a while. But he actually, his stats were compared to Chapman's since the beginning of 2014, and he has almost identical stats to Chapman, except for Chapman has a lot more strikeouts.
Yeah.
But as far as just being effective overall, Mark Melancon, who formerly pitched for the Pirates, this guy is about as underrated as they get as far as any kind of players, really. So he was another big-time closer out on the market. The Pirates, being another small market team, he's in a contract year, and he's going to cost a lot on the open market, so they decided to get ahead of it and move him for some value. I think comparing to Chapman and Miller, they did not do that well at all with their haul here. They sent him to the Washington Nationals. Good for the Nationals. They needed to pick up a big bullpen piece. Papelbon was struggling. He likes to choke their own players. Papelbon not really.
Yeah, he had just like blown a game like right before the move too. Like he's a disaster this year.
Yeah, so they're trying to kind of move on from him in the ninth inning role. They get their man in Melancon, and they don't have to give up a king's ransom like in Chapman or Miller. Instead, they only send a minor leaguer Taylor Hearn and Felipe Rivero. Rivero was already on the big league staff. He's got a lot of potential. He's a lefty. He throws very hard. But he's had some command issues, struggling a little bit. Had an ERA bouncing in the 4.5 range this year. So still young, though. Still quite young, and he's got a lot of potential. Could potentially be a closer or late inning guy down the road, but still young to this point. And then Hearn's another prospect that they can kind of mold as well. But Melancon heads over to the Nationals. So the Nationals make a big move to kind of stay with or try to keep up with guys like the Giants and the Cubs and whatnot.
Melancon, he asked people to change how people pronounce his last name, right? Was he Melancone?
I don't know if it was, but I've always called him Melanson.
No, Melanson is the correct pronunciation, but I could have sworn that like 3 years ago people were calling him Mark Melancone.
Melancon, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one when you see it spelled at first, but yeah, you know, it was funny. Tyler Ladendorf, who plays for the A's, a utility man. He's been up and down with the A's the past couple of years, and for the longest time, everybody, including the PA announcer, called him Ladendorf. And then they interviewed him after one of the games, and they said, "Oh, it's Ladendorf." And they're just like, "So, but we've been calling you the wrong version of that all the time, and you never said anything." And he said, "Well, I just didn't care." So, he's like, "Whatever." But it's actually Ladendorf. Yeah. So the announcers were like, "Okay, so yeah, we need to change what we call him now."
Yeah, that seems to usually happen. Is he like an American-born player? Because I know that happens to like European or like foreign players who are just like don't like want to talk about it and like make an issue about someone they're saying their name wrong. I've never heard of an American player just being like, "No, they didn't really care."
I'm pretty sure he's totally American.
Yeah,
too.
that's pretty. That's hilarious. Because I know there's a couple of Sharks who have had that happen in the past, like 5 years or so, like Antero Niittymaki or something like that.
Yeah, you're not going to get me to repeat that name.
Yeah, I think his first name was actually like Antero or something like that. Like I don't remember what it was.
Ontario,
yeah,
Canada.
There we go.
Hockey.
He was like, "Guys, my name's actually Ontario, Canada," and they were like, "Shut the hell up." but yeah, so I media getting names wrong is like one of the funniest things in sports for me. I don't know why, but it is a great happenstance.
Yes, indeed. All right, some other moves that went down. We've also got, let's see what another big one is. Tyler Clippard, another Yankee trade involved. This time the Yankees acquired Tyler Clippard from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Didn't really have to give up a whole lot for him, just minor league prospect Vicente Campos, who's kind of a hit-or-miss guy. But they were trying to add another setup man because Betances is now going to move into the closer role for the Yankees.
He pitched last night, I'm pretty sure.
Since Miller and Chapman are gone, and now Clippard is going to be the new setup man for the Yankees. So they subtracted but added at the same time. I think it's just trying to keep the bullpen somewhat stable in the time being. They don't want to completely just get rid of everybody and totally just bottom out. So they're going to stay somewhat competitive now. I think it was a decent move.
I mean, the ERA's been a little bit up there today or this year, 4.3 ERA, but he's got basically an 11 K through 9. It's 10.99 at the moment.
His big problem is he gives up the home run ball a little too often. I clearly remember that from his Oakland days. He gets bit by the long ball too much for my taste.
Yeah, only $12 million deal, so it's pretty cheap, and he's going back home. He was drafted by the Yankees. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he does back in his original organization. All the best of luck to him. I mean, he's got potential. Well, I shouldn't say potential at this point, but, you know, he's got those Ks. We'll see how it works
durable.
out for him.
He's a durable arm. And I think his contract is up after next season, so it's not that long of a contract to commit to. Another deal.
Another one.
Speaking of contractual commitments and bad deals, we have Matt Kemp and Hector Olivera switching places. So Matt Kemp was a part of that big haul, the Padres, when they were trying to contend. A lot of people might have already forgot a couple of years ago when they get Craig Kimbrell and Kemp and all of these guys, Will Myers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're the big new superpower."
That Miami Marlins-esque build
totally failed like the Marlins.
Yeah.
And so, Kemp was still. I mean, a lot of his contract is still going to be paid by the Dodgers, so they have that going for him. And then the Padres sent a little bit of money to the Braves with Kemp, so the Braves aren't going to be paying him nearly as much as his contract totals. No, not too bad for them. In exchange for Hector Olivera, who another bad contract investment considering his domestic violence problems that he's encountered, and he's currently serving a suspension for, actually. And he was once a highly touted Cuban infielder, plays all over the infield, mainly third base, but he's been serving that suspension. He's now into his early 30s, so it's starting to turn into a bit of a bust scenario.
Yeah, it seemed like the Braves just wanted to get rid of Hector Oliveira because of his off-the-field issues.
Yeah.
And just decided, let's just grab whatever we can.
And the Padres actually waived Oliveira as soon as they got him.
Okay,
too.
so yeah.
It was more of a money dump for the
definitely.
Padres.
Yeah, I mean...
And now the Braves have some guy on the team to actually provide a little more pop and be somewhat of a protection for Freddie Freeman.
Yeah,
so they're not. He's a guy that can kind of help bring a little more attendance there. He's not what he used to be, but he's still got quite a bit of pop in his bat. He's not going to hit for the best average in the world, but he's going to get some dingers and some RBIs.
Here's a stat for you this season. Kemp versus left-handed pitchers is batting .333 with 9 home runs and a .677 slugging percentage and 93 at-bats. The Braves versus lefties, Freddie Freeman is the only one with a slugging percentage above .425.
And Freddie's also a left-handed hitter, too, so
yeah.
I think that's kind of sad, but at the same time, I mean, now there's a right-handed complement for Freeman in that lineup, so they improved a little bit. I like it.
They got rid of an embarrassment, and, I mean, they got a player who could play, which is what the Braves are so sorely lacking at the moment.
He's serviceable, and you're not paying him nearly the maximum commitment of his contract.
Exactly,
like the Padres and Dodgers are paying quite a bit of the rest of his deal. So not too bad.
Agreed. Well, I mean, for the Braves, I guess it works out for both teams because Hector Oliveira, it seems like the Padres were just never really expecting to get a player out of this, just shed some cash. So good trade for both teams in terms of getting some unwanted assets, or I guess you can't really call them liabilities, off the squad.
So then we'll just run through quickly some of the other deals that went down, some of the not so big ones. So we had Minnesota sent Fernando Abad, the former Oakland A, over to the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox continue to beef up their bullpen a little bit. They added Ziegler, and now they're going to add Fernando Abad, who's had a pretty good season quietly over in Minnesota. So he was swapped for Pat Light, a young reliever. And also another trade that went down, again, these are all kind of smaller ones, not big names. Brandon Guyer was also acquired by the Cleveland Indians as some outfield depth from the Tampa Bay Rays. So nice little pickup there. He was sent there in exchange for a couple of minor leaguers. Also, you had a couple of swingmen were exchanged between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. Jesse Chavez for Mike Bolsinger. It was more of just kind of a better fit for both guys, I guess. Chavez has kind of struggled for the Blue Jays this year, and Bolsinger as well for the Dodgers. Next, we have Steve Pearce rejoins his former team in the Baltimore Orioles, adds to that absolutely ridiculously powerful lineup. So he's going to return there, add some much-needed depth to that lineup, although I think the Orioles needed pitching way more than they needed batting, but they add batting nonetheless. We're just going to keep killing you with home runs. They're the Blue Jays 2.0.
Yeah.
So he was exchanged for a prospect. Also, we have Ivan Nova. Yes, another Yankees trade happening. Ivan Nova was sent to the Pittsburgh Pirates for a couple of players to be named later. Pirates need a little more pitching depth, mainly because they just don't really have a whole lot of reliable pitching this year. And their pitching coach is seen as a bit of a pitching guru, so to speak, Ray Siraj. So maybe they're hoping that Nova can kind of revive his career. He struggled quite a bit after he was once seen as a promising young starter. So
yeah,
they're hoping that he rebounds a little bit. Another Pirates trade, Antonio Bastardo swaps places with John Neese, who is reunited with the New York Mets. So Neese heads back to the Mets. Bastardo kind of just sucked, really, for the Mets this year. They were hoping that he was going to be a lot better. But Bastardo, funny thing about this was Bastardo and Neese were both on these teams last year, and now they just got swapped back to the original teams.
Were they?
But they both
so it's free agency, and they got forced back to.
Well, Neese was traded to the Pirates for Neil Walker,
mm-hmm.
and then Bastardo just signed with the Mets in the offseason. But now they're back on the teams they originally were on.
And
so
they're just like, oh, not this again.
Yeah. So then Joe Smith added to the Chicago Cubs' wealth of bullpen acquisitions. The Angels send Joe Smith over there for a minor league pitching prospect. So the Cubs keep adding to that bullpen. Smith hasn't had the best season, so to speak, but he's had a pretty good track record. Nice little sidewinder delivery, kind of tough to pick up. So nice acquisition for them. Another Pittsburgh Pirates deal here. We have Drew Hutchison, a guy they've been really trying to acquire for a long time now. Drew Hutchison is acquired by the Pirates for Francisco Liriano and a couple of other minor leaguers. The Pirates really wanted Hutchison, and the Blue Jays have really wanted Liriano for a long time. So this was a deal that just kind of made sense, and it was a long time coming. And then some other deals. Wade Miley from the Seattle Mariners heads over to the Baltimore Orioles.
They got some pitching. There we go.
So their pitching staff has pitched to a 5 ERA this year.
God.
And Wade Miley has pitched to a 4.98 ERA this year.
Okay!
So it's improvement. It's improvement. You can't say they didn't try.
I like to think that their GM trying to sell that trade to the owner with that argument, just standing there in the owner's room, just his office, just it's an improvement, all right. And
then the guy's just like, give me a reason why I shouldn't fire you right now, right now.
And then he responds with just, come on, man. We're like, it's an improvement. And he's like, all right, you're here, man. You are here.
Welcome. So
that's like the Lakers making that move where they traded or they let go of Roy Hibbert, the 76th worst center, and then signed the 75th worst center.
Yeah,
that's what that basically is.
Improvement is improvement.
Step by step, block by block.
Pitching prospect acquired for the Seattle Mariners, and then they get rid of Miley's contract. Another deal that went down, we had the Angels involved in another deal. This one was a real head-scratcher for me because neither of these teams needed to make a trade, really at all, but they made a trade, I think, just for the sake of making a trade.
I was going to say, what's the point of it? Like, these are both 4 or 5 starting pitchers on teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. They're both pretty old, seen as, just bottom of the bin, I kind of agree with you there.
Well, I think that the Twins actually made away with a better haul in this deal because Hector Santiago and a minor leaguer head over to the Twins, and Santiago's actually been seen as a pretty decent arm, and he's still relatively young.
He's got potential. Yeah,
he's still relatively young and got a little bit of team control left, so he's not a bad pickup for them. And they send Ricky Nolasco, who's been a total bust for the Twins, signed him to way too large of a contract. So now the Angels are stuck with another bad contract. Yeah, yay.
And they're also on their, 76th starting pitcher this season?
Yeah.
So I mean, Hector Santiago, I kind of thought he was one of their pitchers who was somewhat serviceable this season as well. So to see them, maybe he had dipped off lately that I just hadn't noticed. But, I mean, I don't know maybe they're tanking even harder. Maybe they just went, let's just full tank this season. I don't know.
See, the Angels are probably just thinking to themselves, you know what? We don't have enough bad contracts right now. See, we're still paying all of Josh Hamilton's deal, and he's not on our team. We're paying Albert Pujols like he's still in his mid-20s, but he's not. And we're paying Jared Weaver a ridiculous amount of money to throw 83-mile-an-hour fastballs. And so now I think we need to pick up an overpriced veteran just to kind of round it all out. A guy who's completely underwhelming in the past couple years. Ricky Nolasco, yeah, he sounds good.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're still paying Trumbo, or I guess Trumbo might still, I don't even know what team. Trumbo's on the Orioles now, okay, so yeah, he's gone. But maybe they thought since they're in LA, they can just acquire all these contracts and the Dodgers TV money would help them out too. And then they're like, oh, wait, we don't get any of that TV money? Oh, maybe not.
Maybe they might just get into negotiations with Vladimir Guerrero or Tim Salmon or David Eckstein or some of these old Angels and be like, hey, we'll just pay you money. Just hey, you want some money? You want some money? We'll give you some money.
Yeah, they don't want a revenue share this season, so they're giving out all their money. Any other deal?
That's going to pretty much do it. Another kind of smaller deal that went out, the last one I've got here is not Tyler Clippard, already mentioned. Zach Duke heads to the Cardinals. Aren't going to be just standing pat. They acquired Zach Duke.
No one's standing pat.
Zach Duke heads from not the Pirates, but he used to play for the Pirates. He was with the White Sox, and he heads over to the Cardinals for a minor league outfield prospect, and that's going to pretty much round up all the big moves.
What I like to think here is, like, we kind of been alluding to it at the end here. Teams are just like, well, we need to make a move. Everyone else is making a move. We're going to look dumb.
Do it! Just do it!
You mean the Cubs they did what? They did what? Okay.
Get me Zach Duke!
What do we have? We have nothing in our prospects. So who can we get? I think Zach Duke's available from the Pirates.
Get me Zach Duke!
Yeah, let's just go for Zach Duke.
Oh, way to go, Cardinals. Way to go.
Hey, he's a quality left-handed bullpen piece.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Quality left-handed bullpen piece.
Yeah, okay. I mean, on a good day.
On a good day. On a bad day, he's going to give up 4 earned runs in 1 inning. But on a good day, he will be good.
Yeah. Oh, let's move on to some better players, please.
Yeah, we will move on to some better players as far as just icons and legends. So we're going to talk about some career achievements here. Trade deadline, all that stuff aside, now we're going to focus on Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza were recently inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Backwards hat, Ken Griffey Jr.
That's why I wear the backwards hat. Like, whenever I play, like, out
Love
playing
me
ball,
some Ken Griffey.
I always wear the backwards hat. People used to yell at me. They'd go, "You're not Ken Griffey." I'm like, I know I'm not Ken Griffey. I'm going to do this anyways, all right?
He invented that style, that kind of swag.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I mean, it's too bad that injuries hindered that later half of his career.
Do you think he might be the all-time home run leader?
That's where I
was
going
injured?
with this. That's where I was going. I was going to say he would be known. He is known as one of, like, the greats, Hall of Famers, but I think he could be, like, one of maybe even top 10 players of all time.
630 career home runs.
Yeah.
And he just, it's crazy. And you look at some of his prime years, he played 70 games, 53 games, 83 games. There were so many seasons that were cut way short because of his injuries.
The Reds, I mean, it's a tragedy, really. I mean, you look at those awards in the first half of his season. Silver Slugger, Gold Glove, MVP, All-Star. Almost every single season he's winning that. Well, not MVP, obviously, but the other 3. And then it hits 2001, and it's just, like, depressing. Straight depressing how far it all goes away due to injuries. It's just... But let's not talk about that second half. Let's focus on, like, just how incredible his career was. You said 630 home runs, 1,800 RBIs. I mean, he had the sweetest swing in all of baseball. That
yeah, for sure. That was the swing.
Yeah,
you tried to emulate, like, your entire career off of.
Mm-hmm.
You, like, anytime you're playing that family little wiffle ball game or, like, going to play a pickup game with your friends or something, you're always like going Griffey, and you just like do a little that one-handed sweet follow through. You're always trying to emulate Griffey.
And he had that amazing video game on the N64.
Yeah.
I remember I got an N64 like 5 or 6 years ago, and that was one of 3 games that I had, and like me and one of my college roommates just played that every single day because that game is just legendary, man. Like it's good that I keep knocking this thing over. It's legendary. It's legendary. He's legendary. It's great to see him in the Hall of Fame. And
284 career batting average, solid, absolutely solid. 370 on base percentage and a 538 slugging. OPS at 907 for his career.
One of the best, and just so good at making it look so just smooth.
He walked over 1,300 times.
I wanted to see 10 more years of prime Griffey so much. Like, this is just, it could have been like 900 home runs or something like that, 800 home runs. Like, geez.
It's weird that he only topped out at 56 for a season. You'd think that he would have reached like that 60 plateau or gone a little more crazy, but he topped out at 56.
Well, I mean, he is known as one of the purest players. I mean, how many guys have gotten more than 60 that haven't been like touched by that steroid thing? Like,
I don't know.
Maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah. There was actually 7 years in a row where 6 out of 7 years in a row in a 7-year stretch, he hit 40 or more home runs. 40 or more. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
And the one year he didn't, it was an injury season.
Yeah.
He only played 72 games, but he still hit 17 home runs that year
Wow.
in 72 games.
Like that Seattle squad, those Seattle squads were so much fun. Like in the 90s, like they had Randy Johnson, they had Ken Griffey Jr., they had young A-Rod for a little while. Like it's too bad they didn't win the World Series that one year. They won like 162 games.
He got caught stealing 69 times, too.
Even when he fails, he does it right.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say about Ken Griffey Jr. Like, one of the best of all time.
Stud.
Yeah.
Stud. You could pretty much just say Ken.
I'm gonna go grab my
Stud
N64
Griffey Jr.
and play some Ken Griffey baseball when I get home.
That would be pretty nostalgic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would dig me some Ken Griffey in the video games.
And the other guy,
he's
no slouch himself.
most known for his time with the Oakland A's.
Yeah, is that how history remembers him?
Most known for his time with the Oakland A's, Mike Piazza. 2007 was a year to remember, okay? Played 83 games for the Oakland A's. It was his last season in Major League Baseball. So isn't that the jersey that you wear in Hall of Fame? The last jersey you wear?
That's how it works. That's
Mike Piazza.
Like, him and Frank Thomas went in with A's jerseys on.
Yep. So talk about, this guy is the most powerful catcher to have ever graced the game. Well, at least in the early part of his career, for most of the first part of his career, he was a catcher. Mainly going to be known as a catcher. Yeah. Kind of transformed into a first base DH when he got older. Mainly just to prolong his careers because he was such a great bat to have in the lineup. But he ends up with 400 home runs in his career. Nuts, 427 to be exact. Over 1,300 RBIs. And he was pretty dang good.
Catcher who put up 20-plus home run seasons 6 years in a row. Like 30, and then, let's see, how many of those were 30? 5 of those were 30 home run seasons, and his best was 40 home runs. I mean, at the catching position, those stats are somewhat unprecedented. I mean,
he's a 308 career hitter.
Like,
that's good.
Ridiculously
There's
good.
power hitters, and then he hit for an average on top of that. 308 career batting average. That's pretty nuts.
To be able to withstand, and then yes, I know he went to first base later on in his career, but to be able to withstand the day in, day out duties of pitching, of catching it, like the work it does on your knees, and then to put up a 300-plus batting average.
He's a 1 in a million.
Yeah, like there's only one other guy who's been able to do that, maybe, and he's only done it 1 or 2 seasons, and Buster Posey. Like, he's a career 280 hitter or something like that for Posey. I mean, he's not. You think of how good Buster Posey is and how much he's won, and then Mike Piazza was 20 batting average points better. Like, that's very impressive.
Yeah, OPS to 922, which is really, really good as well. But again, he was caught stealing more than he stole bases. It was 17 to 20.
Oh, man.
Dang it, Mike.
I feel like those stolen bases were just like the 9th inning. It was half of them could have been fielders and differences, but
he also grounded into 230 double plays.
I mean, that's not as bad as AJ Brzezinski. So AJ Brzezinski had 234 in one season. So
you the real MVP.
True.
What else to say about him?
He reached the 2,000 hit plateau. Pretty good.
I got a small anecdote. It's not really about. Didn't really happen to Mike Piazza, but this is like the most Mike Piazza story that I would have heard and believed could have happened. I had this one video game, Out of the Park Baseball, where you're it's very manager-like, where you don't even play. You're just coaching the players. And I remember Mike Piazza, a little news article came up saying that, Mike Piazza has decided to start going into the, where is it? For his pregame routine, he's going out and getting drunk with the fans. And then like a little week later, he's like, well, the team told me I can't do that anymore, but they didn't say anything about going across the streets. And I'm just like, that's the most Mike Piazza story ever. This is unrealistic, but I love Mike Piazza. Like, he was like, he did have that party like attitude to him a little bit too. That made him such a cool player on top of doing what he did. I mean, you play in New York and then you play in Los Angeles for so long. As much as I hate the Los Angeles, like those are hip, I guess you could say, places to play. He became an icon in himself.
That he had an absolutely legendary career. I'd say your top catchers of all time right now, if you were to make a top three, it'd have to be, in no particular order, Piazza, Yogi Berra, and Johnny Bench. I mean, how do you throw anybody else? Maybe Carlton Fisk kind of gets put in there as well, but those are my top three. Piazza, Griffey, we salute you on some legendary careers. Welcome to your enshrinement in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to see who's added to next year. Now we're going to focus on somebody.
Barry.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Unlikely.
That's a big maybe.
Unlikely, but Barry, come on.
So now we're going to focus on somebody who's still playing, somebody who's still trying to reach the big milestone. Likely will be one day inducted in the Hall of Fame as well, mainly due to just not only his career here, but also overseas. Ichiro Suzuki.
The man.
The man, the myth, the legend, Ichiro Suzuki.
I mean, what else can you say about him, really? He's been, like, the fact that he came to the Marlins these last couple of seasons, and the Marlins were just like, well, I guess we'll just keep him on the squad because eventually he'll get that 3,000s hit. They didn't think it was going to happen this year. They thought it'd happen next year probably, or late this season. And he comes out here and bats 300, plays some great outfield for them. I mean, while Giancarlo, or I don't know if it was Stanton who was out, but they had a couple outfielders who were out, and he filled in like perfectly for him. Almost forced his way into the starting lineup. And this is in his 40s or something. Like, how old
he's in his 40s and he's hitting 321. No big deal.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I always love that what if of if he had decided to hit for power, like because there's all the stories about how he could kill the ball. Like, he just, if he wanted to just hit it to one side of the field, but he decided he wanted to be a full field hitter, and keep his home run numbers under 10. I mean, that could have been so much fun seeing just Suzuki hitting 25 home runs, batting to. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe I do like the path he took, because he's a lot more well known for what he's done with the hits, with the stolen bases, and not the home runs than he would have been, I think, if he hadn't done that. So
he's hit 350 or higher 4 different seasons as a starter. 4 different seasons of hitting 350 or above.
How many 200 hit seasons does he have?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. Wow. 10 seasons of 200 or more hits.
Wow.
Including the 262 hit season, which is an MLB record.
Yeah, there's never going to be another player like that.
He hit 372 that year. 372 with a 414 on base percentage. I mean, having a leadoff hitter who gets on base 4 out of 10 times and is hitting 372, I can't even fathom that.
And the best part is that his first year in the MLB was at the ripe young age of 27 years old. Like, he was putting up these numbers. He was already 30 by that time.
Because he already had so many great seasons overseas.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, the fact that you don't, I guess you kind of saw with a couple other Japanese players, there was the guy on the Yankees, I'm forgetting his name right now, who came in a little later. Hideki Matsui. He came in his career.
Also in Oakland A.
How did I forget that? No, but you see, so there's a couple of these Japanese players who have come in late, and they're relatively late in their careers. I mean, I guess you can't say late in Ichiro since he's played 15 or 16 seasons, but compared to the average prime of an athletic person in their playing career, and they've just far and above blown out what expectations have been, and just the fact that he's at 3,000 hits now. He's at like 4,400 or something like that. When you combine them all, I mean, can't wait for him to be in the Hall of Fame. It'll be soon.
I think that's why he's really pushing for that 3,000 hit mark. Because I mean, that's kind of like the plateau to reach to really guarantee your Hall of Fame enshrinement.
Guarantee. Agreed on guarantee. But do you think he wouldn't make it in if he didn't get 3,000?
I don't know. There's a lot of kind of gray area where a lot of people don't really value his production overseas because they don't really compare the leagues that much at all.
Yeah.
And but I think once he hits that 3,000 mark, which he's at 2,998, he's 2 hits away. Once he hits that mark, he's good to go. Yeah. No need to worry about it anymore.
Agreed.
Especially since he has an MLB record right now for most hits in a season. And he hit 372 that season. He hit over 350 4 times, and he's still playing into his early 40s. It's a legendary career in my eyes.
Agreed.
All right, so now we're going to jump into some local Bay Area baseball talk. You got your A's and Giants making some moves as well. First off, we'll hit some A's. Okay, so the A's as a team, believe it or not, have won 4 out of their first 5 series since the All-Star break. They didn't sweep any of them, but they did just get swept by the Indians, who are starting to turn into world beaters. So yeah. I don't really turn into I'm not offended by losing to the Indians. Yeah, whatever. They're good.
They're good.
But before that, we won 4 out of our first 5 series, so we were actually looking pretty good, and then we sold off our players.
Oh, no! We suck again!
Yeah.
We made a couple of moves. So the first one we made, not so big, we swapped Billy Burns, used to be up in the bigs. We actually had optioned him down for Ryan Healy, a new third baseman that's been getting quite a bit of playing time with us, and then we swapped Burns with Kansas City outfielder Brett Eibner, who's more of a power hitter. He's got a lot more pop in his bat, not as fast. So we went for more of a pop in the bat more than speed, and we swapped with the Kansas City Royals. So Eibner's now with the club, and Eibner now probably has a spot on the team because of a certain trade that just occurred after that. Josh Reddick and Rich Hill were also packaged up and swapped over to the L.A. Dodgers.
Kills me for so many reasons, not just because of the Dodgers. That's the first reason. But I mean, Rich Hill was my favorite pitching story this year. Every single podcast episode, I feel like I asked you how he was doing this season. Because I mean, it's anytime you bean 3 guys and turn that around at the beginning of the season, like 3 starts in a row in preseason before you're ready, beating 3 batters in a row. Anyone who does that then turns around and puts up one of the best ERAs in the league and is one of the talked about main guys to be traded. I mean, that's a story. I like that. That's fun. It's hilarious. Well, I mean, beating guys isn't hilarious, but relatively, it's funny. It wasn't like they were malicious beans. And he's balled out this season, so he improved his that trade value, I guess, just enough to be pushed with on big trade to the Dodgers. And Josh Reddick being gone, I mean, whenever you lose a guy who has wrestling walk-up music or saxophone walk-up music, you're losing one of the biggest assets in the league. So from my purely analytical standpoint of those 2 points that I made, I mean, this is the worst trade of all time. Oh my God.
Well, the guys they got back in this haul, pretty decent actually. So the A's, not necessarily known for their hard throwing throughout the years, not a lot of guys who throw gas in the bullpen. All 3 of these guys they get back in this trade all throw 95 plus. So I do like that aspect about this, and also the fact that 2 of the 3 guys are in AAA right now. Jarrell Cotton and Frankie Montas, I think, was the main piece in this deal, just simply because he's closest to being ready. He is going to be on the shelf for possibly the rest of the season due to an injury, but he touches triple digits when healthy, and he's actually one of the more powerful arms and one of the more promising pitching prospects around. He was a big pickup there, and he was actually involved in a couple of moves as well. This is his second time being swapped in the past year. The Dodgers actually got him from the White Sox in that deal that involved Frazier and the Reds, that 3-team deal where they sent a bunch of prospects around. So Now we get Frankie Montas, Jarrell Cotton also in AAA right now, kind of struggling a little bit this year. He's got a 4 ERA down there, but he could also be a bullpen piece, not just a starter, and that will help him add a little velocity, and we could see him as a September call-up. And then another big piece to this trade as a guy who's currently sitting in high A ball, but he's one of the top MLB Pipeline 100 prospects of the year this year in Grant Holmes. He's not the tallest guy in the world. He's only about 6 feet, which is kind of small for a pitcher. But he also throws really hard, and he's got some pretty decent potential as a top-of-the-line starter. So I think it was a decent haul considering that Rich Hill hadn't really pitched at all that much in the past couple months, really, from blister issues to groin, whatever. So, and the fact that he's only a rental on a 1-year, $6 million deal as a 36-year-old. And we clearly didn't have a need for him as a team that wasn't really going to contend this year, and especially if he wasn't even healthy enough to pitch for us. And then Reddick, I'm kind of torn here because when you look at it from the fan perspective, Josh Reddick had indeed become the face of the A's just because he's been here the longest and Josh Reddick really made his name and his mark with Oakland and started to kind of cement his status as a really good corner outfielder with the A's. He was a great clubhouse presence. He became the pie man. He was always pieing everybody after the walk-off wins and became good friends with everyone.
That Spider-Man outfit he had, that's legendary.
He wears the Spider-Man outfit under his uniform every single day.
Swear to God.
Every single day.
Oh, my God.
The way you can tell is because when he's batting and they do the close-ups, you see red underneath his uniform.
Why did they trade this guy? Like, he seems so cool.
It was economics, man.
I just want to go and hang out with him all day.
I really do. And, he's really heavily into the WWE.
I know.
Really heavily into the WWE. Even now that the WWE is kind of declining in popularity, he's still huge about wrestling or wrestling.
I loved, like, his, like we were saying earlier, like, his theme music that he comes out, I'm pretty sure he came out
to... It's WWE theme music all the time.
NWO Wolfpack at one point. That's the only one I can remember right now. I think I went to that. That was the game I went to. But anyone who throws on the NWO Wolfpack theme song while walking up to the plate is all right by me.
He would always switch between different entrance theme musics, and then it was either that or Careless Whisper.
Yes, the saxophone.
It's either those songs or Careless Whisper. That was Josh Reddick. So it's gonna be really hard and real different to be watching A's games these days now that he's gone, just because he had been a staple over the past several years. But I wish him well. I hope that he and Rich Hill both go over and now they actually have a chance to go compete and make the playoffs and really kind of make a run at it this year. So I hope that they make impacts over there and that they keep playing to the best of their ability. And I really do wish them well. They're both really good guys. There was never any reason to hate either one of them. And just from the A's perspective, extension talks weren't going anywhere, and he was a free agent at the end of the year, so they just said, you know what, if we can't sign him long term, we might as well just get some value for him now.
Was it he wanted an extra year?
He wanted 4 years. They wanted 3. They point to his injury history as he hasn't been the best at staying relatively healthy. Like he had a significant thumb injury earlier this year, and then he's missed some time over the past couple of years. Yeah. I think he's done a pretty good job at staying relatively healthy lately, though. So and just he's one of the better corner outfield defenders you're going to find in all of baseball. Got one of the best dang arms around. And then he hits for a good average. He used to be a power hitter, but he's kind of sacrificed that a little bit to just hit for a better average. And he's been hitting in that 280, 290 mark for quite some time now. So he's a great bat to pick up.
Yeah, it's going to be missed personality, missed stats in the Oakland locker room. I mean, but he is going to go play. Sadly, he's going to get. Well, no, he's not even going to play at a place that's going to play in playoff games. The Dodgers, they're going to fall apart in September. All right. And Reddick and Rich Hill might be playing well, but the other 23 guys, they're gonna suck. That's my prediction. And
I don't know, man. They acquired Rich Hill, Josh Reddick, and Jesse Chavez. Man, all 3 are former A's.
Okay.
They got that A's magic going.
Oh yeah, no. Last night someone was telling me there's like 6 or 7 A's now in the Dodgers. Like, not just those three
Well, Andre
guys.
Ethier used to be an A, too.
Yeah, so...
And then they also have Brandon McCarthy, used to be an A.
Okay,
and
that's
Brett
the guy.
Anderson, who used to be an A.
Brandon McCarthy was the guy who when they lost Brandon McCarthy, that was the other guy who it hurt me real bad. Like, I felt like, well, it didn't really hurt me real bad, but those are the two guys I loved on the A's, Josh Reddick and McCarthy. I felt like they had so much personality combined. Like, Brandon McCarthy's Twitter page is one of the funniest, it's the greatest things.
You need to follow Brandon McCarthy on Twitter if you're not doing it right now. He's a very good, he's very punny. Very punny.
Yeah.
He's very topical, too.
Yeah.
So, so long, farewell to Josh Reddick and Rich Hill. I mean, Rich Hill, we didn't know each other that long, but Josh, it's been a fun ride. He took his time to post to his Twitter account, too, a nice little thank you and goodbye to all the green and gold and all of the faithful fan base. So
it seemed like right from the beginning, the A's fan base, like, just completely loved Josh Reddick, and Josh Reddick loved them back. It was one of those relationships where just the team and the fan base and the player, it was perfect. It was maybe not win as much as you would like, but like the camaraderie was so there. So it hurts to see a guy like him go.
We need to move on, though, and that means having more of these young guys come up and get some more playing time, and we've seen that. Ryan Healy has been up for the A's and has actually been playing pretty decent. He's holding his own at the plate, including a really cool walk-off home run that he hit a couple weeks ago, not too long after he was called up, actually. So Healy, walk-off home run to his credit already. He's hitting at around 250 so far in his career. He's holding his own over there at the hot corner, and he's causing Danny Valencia to kind of lose his playing time a little bit and have to move around the diamond because Valencia was kind of the stalwart at third base, but now Valencia might be seeing some time in Reddick's old position in right. And Eibner might be playing in right as well. And then Valencia might also see some time at DH and first base. And another guy that's been playing a little bit, mainly because Fegley's been on the DL and Votes missed some time here and there, is Bruce Maxwell, another guy who had been hitting pretty hot bat down in AAA. So they decided to have him come up and have a little cup of tea in the bigs too. He's been okay at first. It's been a bit of a rough adjustment for him. It took him a while to get his first hit. And funny enough, on his first big league hit, he was actually thrown out trying to stretch it into a double. So, no, I don't know. I was actually thinking to myself, how often has that happened where your first major league hit, you're also out on? Because he roped a ball down the right field line into the corner, and he got gunned trying to go for a double. I don't know, it's more of a testament to how good the guy's arm was in right or how slow you have to be to not beat out a ball that's hit into the corner for a double.
He just got so amped. I didn't see it, but it would have been hilarious if it wasn't even a ball that like really could have been double worthy. He just decided to go for it.
Oh, it was totally double worthy. I watched it happen.
Yeah. He's just that slow.
Yeah, catcher's legs, man. Yeah.
Like Benji getting around the bases.
Yeah. Shout out to Benji Molina. Slow poke. Guys that they're acquiring in these trades and swaps, they just want to see what they got. That's going to be what it mainly is for the rest of the season. We've pretty much thrown in the towel on contending, and now it's on to the Angels. The A's are going to be visiting the Angels and playing a quick little 3-game series there, and then hosting the Chicago Cubs and Aroldis Chapman this weekend. That'll be fun. And then they'll hit the road to go face the Orioles after that. So kind of a tough little upcoming trip here. Angels aren't that threatening. Hosting the Cubs is going to be quite the challenge. And then going to Camden Yards to face the slugfest that is the Baltimore Orioles. That's never fun for a pitching staff. So we'll see how we come out of the next couple series. Maybe we can surprise some people, turn some heads.
And on top of that, the Orioles just got Wade Miley. So
who's drastically improved that pitching staff. So hopefully he doesn't just twirl no-hitter against us or anything.
I'd be worried if I were you. Other side of the bay?
Other side of the bay now.
We have not been doing good since the All-Star break. 4-11.
Weird to say we're going to go to the lesser side of the Bay Area since the All-Star break, but the Giants, they've started to kind of turn things around really recently, but overall since the All-Star break, just 4-11. Really surprising there. I think it's mainly due to the fact that the pitching staff is starting to just kind of catch up with them a little bit. I think they were getting away with some mediocre outings and some not so great bullpen outings earlier in the season and just getting away with some timely hitting, but it's finally starting to catch up with him a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like the hitting is kind of it happened early in the season to the Giants. Their hitting just disappeared, but they still had that pitching to really prop them up. But this time I feel like the hitting's disappeared, and
I don't think it's so much as disappeared, but it's about the timing.
Yeah, not timing. Yeah, I guess that's a good way of putting it.
They're still hitting relatively the same that the Giants normally hit, but it's just they're not getting hits when they need them the most.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not backing up the pitching, especially when the pitching really needs it. Like, you got guys like Matt Cain and Jake Peavy and the other guy who was filling in Suarez. Those guys, they're just not really holding it down. And Samardzija has totally reverted back to his White Sox days.
Yeah, that's pretty bad on Samardzija's part. He needs to pick it up. I mean, we did make 3 moves, though, to try and stem the losses since the All-Star break. Gave up a lot.
That is correct.
But first, who are the 3 guys who are now going to be donning the orange and black?
We're getting
So first, they got
Eduardo Nunez.
Eduardo Nunez.
Infielder.
Yeah, bit of a utility guy, can play all around the diamond, really, but I think he's now going to be settled in at third base.
Yep.
Because
we traded away Matt Duffy for Matt Moore.
Yeah.
With a couple other prospects that added on to that. I mean,
I like it. Honestly, I like this trade. Bye-bye, Matt Duffy.
We do have replacements in the minor league system for a third base. We do have guys on the team now that can play third base. My problem with this trade just a little bit is that when Matt Duffy is bad, he's still pretty good. And when he's good, he's like freaking amazing. Matt Moore, I mean, when he's bad, he's really, 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 really bad, and he hasn't been good in years. So it's like,
I think that's a bit overinflated. I mean,
maybe.
Matt Moore's pitching to a 4 ERA, which is better than Samardzija's still.
Okay.
And he's a young, controllable arm. You still have a couple of team options that you can exercise that are pretty fairly cheap, actually, for the next couple seasons. So you could potentially control him through 2018 at least. And then he's still young, still very young, well below the age of 30. And he's a lefty to add that to complement Bumgarner as another lefty in that rotation because it was pretty predominantly right-handed other than Bumgarner.
Yeah.
So he's a nice piece to throw in there. So now you have Bumgarner, Cueto, and Moore and Samardzija too that you're going to control for the next couple of years at least. It's nice to have continuity in a pitching rotation.
Yeah, and on top of that, Matt Duffy, some of his peripherals may indicate that he's set for to be just coming down a little bit as the player he is.
I was never a big Bye-bye, Matt Duffy. Have fun in Tampa Bay.
See, that's not how San Francisco fans feel about that, though. We love our homegrown infield. Like, we loved still love our homegrown infield. But, I mean, he was, like, his first year, he was really, like,
look at his minor league power numbers, because the biggest thing that I think that he really impressed the Giants with was his pop. But if you look at his minor league numbers, he was nowhere near that powerful of a hitter in the minors as he was. All of a sudden, he just started hitting bombs in the bigs. But he was never that. He was a pretty good contact hitter in the minors, which he was also hitting for contact in the bigs too. But it was the fact that he kept popping off home runs that was kind of surprising. But I think that was a bit of an outlier, really.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, apparently both sides, both teams think that he's got a pretty good batting average on balls in play. 300's the average. He put 320 he's been doing 320 on his career, but both teams thinks that number is going to come down. He's just going to be an average hitter for average play out for the rest of his career, which, I mean, really stings to hear, but then also kind of is a relieving thing to hear because, I mean, you didn't give away a superstar, or teams don't see him as a superstar.
I'll tell you why the Tampa Bay Rays lose this trade is because they give up a controllable pitching arm in Matt Moore when they didn't need to. They sold low on him. He wasn't pitching to he's a former All-Star. He's a former All-Star who was once looked at one of the more promising pitching arms in all of baseball. Mm-hmm. So they sold low on him, and then they traded for a guy who they're already paying an All-Star caliber player at his position for the next several years, quite a bit of money. I don't know if you've heard of this guy named Evan Longoria, who also happens to play third base, that Matt Duffy plays.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him. Actually,
Yeah.
I think I have heard of him. He's good from what I've heard.
He's kind of good, yeah.
So maybe this will cause some problems.
So I saw that Matt Duffy was acquired by the Rays, and after I saw that trade, I immediately thought, who's Evan Longoria getting traded to? Because I was like, there's no way that you get both of those guys. Because otherwise, you might just be planning on having Duffy on the bench and not playing him. Because Logan Forsythe is blocking him at second, who's also a really good second baseman, kind of underrated. Brad Miller's been hitting the ball really well at shortstop. And then you've also got Logan Morrison, who's decent over at first base. So maybe they're going to try Duffy out at first or swap Longoria over to first, but Longoria is a great defender at third.
Yeah, it's okay. You know what? I'm gonna take your view on it, and I'm gonna say we won this trade. So yeah, we won this trade.
You won this
Good job,
trade.
Giants.
Dang it, you won it.
Yeah, I admit that most of my bias in this trade is just on the fact that I'm a huge Matt Duffy fan. So to see him leave, painful, but the stats seem to show that it may be a positive deal for us. Or it's more likely to be a positive deal for us than a negative one. So, all right. There's another deal, though. There's one more deal.
When we say this name, he's not getting jiggy with it, all right? He's not going to pull a switch on you.
Well,
He's not going to wipe your memory.
Now I think that the Giants got gypped, knowing that it's not this guy, the guy you're talking about.
It's not Will Smith. It's Will Smith. It's not Will Smith, but it's Will Smith.
Yes, there we go.
There you go. Wrap that around your head.
Relieving pitcher. He's got one of the dirtiest sliders in the game, Will Smith. To be honest, Andrew Susak and Phil Bickford. Phil Bickford is one of our top pitching prospects.
That hurts.
Yes,
yeah.
that does hurt. But we have, what's the other guy's name? I'm blanking. We have another pitcher in there right now.
Well, the other two pitchers that I've been talking about all along, really, the two big starters that they still have are Bede and Kyle Crick.
Okay. I was thinking of Bede.
So they have Bede and Crick that are still in the organization. So they kept those two guys at least. Where I was starting to question a little bit here was nothing's for certain about Trevor Brown. I mean, he's been up for this year and he's been playing pretty well, but there's no certainty. I mean, hey, remember what's his face?
Whiteside or not Whiteside?
Hector Sanchez.
Okay.
Sanchez. He also used to be the backup for the Giants as well, but he totally fizzled out, and now who knows where he is. So if Trevor Brown turns into a guy like that, now you've gotten rid of Susak, and now who's going to be the next catcher to back up Posey? Because Posey's not going to catch 162 games.
Yeah,
he's going to play quite a few of them at first, and then he might DH when they're playing an American League team, or he might just get a day off. So you need a guy that's going to be in there to be like a good, solid backup. Brown is that guy for now, but long-term wise, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to think of I think backup catcher is always going to be like a short-term sort of fill spot, though. So it's like you don't need to put them as much emphasis, but you still need one, especially since this is a Giants team with Posey, and you know his situation. Like, he's not going to play every day at catcher. He's one of the most, we need him to be healthy, so there is value to that backup catcher spot. But
it's not so much about the long-term, too. It's also just like, hey, what if Posey gets hurt?
That's true.
What if Posey gets hurt? Because then now Trevor Brown's your starting catcher, and who's
we can
who's
basically
gonna...
kiss our playoff chances goodbye.
Not necessarily. No, I wouldn't say that. If Pence comes back and plays well, Panic plays up to his potential.
But I don't think offensively. I think his catching skills.
True.
I think that's where we drop off. That'd be most noticeable. I feel like all of our starting pitcher, all of our pitching staff would have just a drop in quality because not only his ability to spot pitches, but his ability to call the game is so elite. So I mean, if we saw a Buster Posey injury, and we've already have once, that's how I see that season going. But they are a better team than he got hurt the first time. So who knows?
Will Smith does address quite a big need for the Giants. It was by far their biggest weakness of this season is their bullpen. Romo has been doing okay right now, coming back. It's still a small sample size, but he's been holding his own pitching. Casilla has been very, very hot and cold this year, as Giants fans know very well. So I think it was a great idea to pick him up because Will Smith can definitely close games for you if you need him to. And he was
we will need him to. I can assure you that at some point.
I think it's going to be more of a by committee scenario though,
Yeah.
because you may need him to face some tough lefties in the 8th or so. But he's actually
His splits are pretty good.
His splits are pretty
Yeah.
good, but I mean, it just mainly they may want to use him more against lefties just because they don't have the Giants don't have another
Yeah.
lefty to really throw in there. Lopez is the other guy, and he's been struggling.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. So those are the 3 moves they've made. I mean, they've
So
started winning again.
Yeah, the 3 guys that they gave up here that are going to really sting, Bickford and Meja, the 2 guys that
Nunez, or...
the guy that they gave up from Nunez, and then Bickford, as you mentioned, in the Smith trade, and then Lucius Fox, who was also a guy that was given up. He was one of their better shortstop prospects, although obviously he's blocked at shortstop right now by some guy named Crawford. It still does hurt to give up talent like that just because it just weakens your farm system and your depth. So
I think that's one of like the safety valves of having, like, you feel like when you have good depth, like those injuries happen, you're like, oh, we'll just pull some up from the minors. And then, we woke up yesterday morning and most of our depth was gone.
Yeah.
Most of our depth was gone. Our minor league depth was gone.
And like you said, when you were talking about how the reason why Giants fans don't like that Matt Duffy's gone is because, like, that homegrown, like, we pulled him up and everything. Well, the more guys you get rid of from your AAA system and AA system, and, like, the more top prospects you deal away, then that doesn't become a reality anymore. You can't just pull guys up willy-nilly left and right that are going to come up and produce because they're not there.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, though, that seemed to be, like, the last 6 or 7 years have always been, like, the Giants have no one in their cupboard. But then I feel like they're good at choosing the right guys to hold on to and letting go of the wrong guys, because it seems like the few guys that they do keep on to, barring that, oh, my God, who is that center fielder? Something, Gary Brown. Like, I think that was his name. Like, barring him, like, the guys who have been lauded Giants prospects have usually hit, like, once they get. So that's something that's rare, but that shows a good coaching staff, good organization skills, and evaluating players. So I do put my trust in this organization. Obviously, it's just a little disheartening to see the cupboard so empty again.
Good news, though. Good news for Giants fans. Joe Panic, Hunter Pence, back in action, baby.
Heck yes. We needed Pence back. Panic too, but Pence has become the heart of the team, in my opinion. So
what this does is it just puts everybody in the role that they're supposed to be in. So Pence back to right field, Span in center, Pagan in left, and you're going to have Nunez is going to be your new third baseman, and now Crawford, Panic, and Belt and Posey. And now the guys who are supposed to be role players can be role players. Guys like Blanco, guys like maybe if Williamson's still up. Mm-hmm. I think Parker was optioned, but in case Parker comes back, those guys can all just fill the role that they're best suited for. And Kelby Tomlinson and
perfect time to do it too, because the calendar's just flipped into August. Like, now's the time to turn it on. Like, make that last push that the Giants usually do here at the end of the season, and then roll into the playoffs with that that even year swag. There we go. Took a little to get out of me.
Okay, I do have one question for you.
All right.
So, assuming it's postseason time, who is your bench? So we pretty much, like I just laid out, that's going to pretty much be the starting lineup. So who are your 5 guys that are filling out your bench, assuming total health?
All right, so we got Trevor Brown.
It's going to have to be your backup catcher. So you got 4 other slots.
Blanco, White Shark. I'm blanking on. I was trying to go with his nickname there, and I failed pretty hard. Let's see.
You got Trevor Brown and Gregor Blanco.
One of the other outfielders, either Williamson or Jarrett Parker, I'm going to assume. So let's see. We're going to have to go a couple infielders. Let me look at these names right here. I should know this bench, but I don't.
Kelby Tomlinson.
Okay, that'll be one. And then I don't know who that last guy will be. It could be. Let's go with. It could be Connor Gillespie, maybe. I don't know. Middle infielder. I'm looking at infielder. So I'd say that he might be. Yeah, Kelby Tomlinson's also an infielder too, so that makes sense. Adrianza, maybe.
I was gonna say Adrianza and Ramiro Pena are also 2 other options.
Pena too. I forgot about Pena. So.
But Pena was sent down to make room for Panic.
Okay.
So that just shows where he's held in the Giants' regard right now.
So then Brown, Blanco, Tomlinson. I got 3 of them. I got 60%.
Williamson.
Yes, did I say Williams? Yeah, Williamson. Okay, and then that 5th guy, I don't know.
Glaspie.
Yeah, that 5th guy is gonna be.
I think they kind of like Glaspie because he's another decent left-handed bat off the bench.
Yeah,
and a lot of those guys are right-handed, like Williamson, Brown, and Tomlinson. They're all right-handed.
True that.
And he can also fill in at third base and first base, so decent little versatility. Okay, upcoming series, Nationals. Well, they just faced. They just faced the
went up
Nationals.
against the Nationals. I think they took 2 out of 3.
They took that series.
Yeah.
They started to get
they tied it. They tied it 2-2.
2-2.
Yeah, 2-2.
And so upcoming series for them, they have the Phillies
and then the Nationals again.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be hosting the Nationals this time, right?
I believe so. Yes, that does sound right. And they are hosting the Phillies too. No. They're on the road for Phillies. They're at Citizen Bank, so they might be on the road for this National Series too. Yeah, they're on the road because they were at home for this last National Series. So
all right,
they're going to be on the road.
A little road trip.
Yeah, a little road trip. They should be. They need to be able to beat up on the Phillies.
A little NL East road trip.
Yeah, and then Nationals. That's going to be a big matchup. And then you have the Marlins after that. That's always they get to meet up with Barry Bonds again. So that'll be a fun little matchup. And they need to take 2 or 3 out of those series, to keep roll. Well, they don't need to, but if they want to keep on pace.
The Dodgers are breathing down their neck.
They need to take at least 2 or 3 of those series. So we're getting into August. 2 months. Now the ball is really about to get important. Like. These last, what are we at, 105 games in the season? So these last 57 games, we're in the last third now, so it's getting cray. And that's all I got for Giant stock.
All right, now we're going to get into some NFL offseason storylines. Yes, we're finally here. We're back with some football talk. It's been a while, but there just hasn't been a whole lot going on. We're just packaging up a lot of this stuff to talk about all in one segment. So let's look at some of the deals that have gone down, or not so much deals, but just kind of things that are in the news. First, my favorite storyline.
Is the news for the past year and a half.
Maybe it'll finally be put to bed, though, especially if Garoppolo goes out there and has a passer rating of 100,000 in his first 4 games.
Yeah.
Then we can trade him to the Chiefs just like Matt Castle.
And that worked out, yeah. It worked out for the Chiefs pretty well.
Tom Brady has been suspended for 4 games, and it's been upheld. Yada, yada, yada.
That's such a stupid story. I thought it was stupid from the beginning. He shouldn't have been suspended. Quarterbacks like their balls the way they want them. All of them get the balls the way they want them. Like, you just scapegoated a guy because other owners felt like Goodell scapegoated the Patriots because other owners felt like they were favoring the Patriots. So this is just like such a non-story that became a 1.5 year, 2-year deal. It's ridiculous.
To avoid getting an aneurysm, I'm just going to move past it and say,
Let's go.
Roger Goodell, you suck.
Yeah, I'm done with that story. Oh, my
Speaking of suspensions, we're going to stay on this topic for a little bit. Vontaze Burfict. You might remember him as the guy who took off Antonio Brown's head in the playoffs last year.
Yep.
He has had his suspension upheld. But you know what? He's only going to get 3 games for almost decapitating a guy. Yeah, we're only going to give him 3 games.
It's the NFL.
Yep, that seems fair. All right, so he's going to be suspended for the first 3 games. It's really sad because he's one of the best, if not the best, defensive player on the entire Cincinnati Bengals roster. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the guys that just makes that defense the presence known, really. He sets the tone, and he's a really freakish athlete. But he just has terrible attitude, and he just doesn't know how to carry himself, and he doesn't care.
If he could just bring himself to that James Harrison level, he'd be fine. Like, he's just past that. Like, he's got the same.
Goodell doesn't like Harrison either.
That's true, and he suspended Harrison a few times as well. But okay, maybe you need to bring it lower than the James Harrison level now that I think about it. But just get it underneath that James Harrison level, and you'll be fine. Like, you can't go out there head hunting, going for knees, trying to decapitate players, like causing these, and then on top of that, he did that in a playoff game, like national TV, like that had to really tick them off because that looked bad. Like it made the NFL look a little bad. Yeah, you saw it was a great rivalry and everything. Like I do love that, but in this climate of how football is starting to look like as a very barbaric sport, it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look at all.
I agree with you. More suspensions. Josh Gordon, once seen as one of the maybe best young receivers in the game, just had a lot of talent, all the talent in the world, and unfortunately he's employed with the Cleveland Browns, but yeah, he's gonna be back.
Yeah, finally. I mean, he's such a complicated, like,
shocks a lot of people. Honestly, I don't feel the least bit sorry for him just because it's not so much like we discussed this a little bit off the air. It's not so much what he did. It's the fact that when you repeatedly offend something, it's just like, when are you going to get it, dude? When are you going to get it?
The drug policy in the NFL for recreational drugs isn't very difficult. Like, you just need to keep it out of your system for the times that they test you. And they make it pretty obvious when they're going to test you, I'm pretty sure. Like, maybe, I think it might be like, it's a day at least, or maybe even like, it's somewhere where, like, you get a good amount of time to get it out of your system, and you're generally aware of around what time they're going to give you the test. So to have failed the test as many times as Josh Gordon has, like, that's just indicative of a problem.
And this is what it all boils down to. So we know that NFL contracts and just contracts in sports in general have been going up and up and up in recent years. So Josh Gordon, having all the talent that he had and that one season where he really had his breakout, he potentially cost himself $100 million.
You blew it!
In contractual money. And you just got to ask yourself, what's worth more, the freedom to smoke a blunt whenever you want, or $100 million? That can buy you a lot of blunts.
I was going to say, like, one of those other things is going to get you so much more of that first one, man. Come on, like, it's juvenile, really. Like, at the end of the day, like, the inability to stay sober at a time when you know you're going to get tested, that's just juvenile. Like, they give you every opportunity to pass this test.
Even still, I mean, NFL careers don't even last that long anyway. You can smoke all you want when you retire. And you're probably not going to be playing past 35.
I'm willing to bet that 90% of guys in the league, like, smoke too. So, like,
they're just smart about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you just need to be smart about it. Like,
it's the same exact principle as the whole Brady fiasco, honestly. And, like, whether it's Deflategate or you want to talk about Spygate or whatever, everybody does that stuff. Everybody. Literally everybody does some sort of cheating type. Well, it seems like it's bending the rules. It's just the Patriots got caught. Josh Gordon got caught.
For that case, I'm going to say I don't even know if the Patriots, like, need to be smarter about it. I feel like just, like, they've been targeted for their success.
They are targets for sure.
Yeah, like, I don't think that's I agree, like, they need to be smarter about it. I feel like you're like you're kind of like doing the Patriots a disservice, and you're a Patriots fan, man. They're pretty smart now. No, I'm just but yeah, like, the players do need to be smarter about it. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, how can you keep getting suspended over and over again?
Put it down, Josh. Just put it down. Go catch some footballs. You got one chance, man. You got one chance. Serve your 4 games, and then you get who the heck is even the Browns quarterback this year?
RG3 and Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I kind of want I want Cleveland to succeed, just because, like, this is maybe more of a race issue, but Hugh Jackson is like, there's not a lot of African American coaches in the NFL at all. Like, Hugh Jackson's one of a few, and, like, I'd like to see, like, him succeed and create, like, a tree of, like, because he has African American coaches. There needs to be a little bit more of that there needs to be a lot more of that in our coaching system compared to how many players are African American. So hopefully, I like to see the Bengals succeed.
The Browns.
The Browns. My bad.
They also have a black coach in Marvin Lewis. I get it.
They're, like, close by to each other too, so it's like my bad.
As much as I agree with you, and yeah, it is nice to see them succeed a little bit more, there are more important things to talk about than the Browns. So we're going to get on to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck.
Big money.
Is a caveman. But also, he signed a lot more money than most cavemen have. 6 years, $140 million specifically. That's what I hear is a lot of money.
Yeah, and this has been, I feel like this is a controversial contract because no one really knows what Andrew Luck is still. I feel like...
Does Andrew Luck know what Andrew Luck is?
He wakes up in the morning and goes, "Who am I?" And then lays there
am
for 3
I
hours.
the same quarterback from Stanford, or am I a NFL subpar quarterback?
I don't know. There's so, like, he's thrown so many interceptions, but he's done so much for a roster that behind him, like, was so depleted and it's terrible. So it's just complicated of how much is he contributing to their wins, and then how much now is he being the cause of their losses. Like, it seems like it's one of those two, and that's creating a very bipolar response to this contract.
You know, he wanted to throw some credit towards the Colts ownership for actually getting some offensive line to support him this year, but it was intercepted.
All right. Is that are you on?
I'm done for the day.
Okay, all right. All right, well, we'll call it a night. That was the N Harmon. What do you think about Andrew Luck? Do you think he's got the ability to?
There's so many things that are still unknown.
Yeah.
Especially with quarterbacks, it's a little bit different. I mean, the average NFL career is pretty short, but I mean, with quarterbacks, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to figure out what you have exactly there. He's got a lot of talent, and he's got a pretty high ceiling, and we've seen flashes of him looking very, very good. But it's just a matter of, can he sustain a really good season just throughout all 16 games and potentially deep into the playoffs.
It seems
the Colts have certainly invested in him.
Yeah, his issue has always been he just tries to do a little bit more too much than he really needs to do. And that's when he gets into his issues. Like, that's when he really throws the interception. So if he just needs to find that balance between making an impact in the game and then just trying to do too much. I think the last 2 years, we've seen a guy who realized his roster's crap, so he's trying to do too much.
Yep. I agree. More money. Von Miller. Von Miller is a player, and he plays for the Denver Broncos.
Yes, you got that right.
But no, seriously. Denver has a very, very talented player in Von Miller here. One of the better defensive players in all of the NFL. He's a guy you can't really let go, in my opinion. Is Mark Sanchez seriously going to be the starter week 1 right now?
It's not going to be Paxton Lynch, so I'm thinking...
Yikes.
Yeah.
All right, so that being the case, you really need a defense.
Yeah.
Von Miller is going to be key for this team, and they did not want to piss him off. And things weren't going well for a little while. In fact, there was a little bit of a tiff going on between him and Elway as far as the talks of the extension. But it's been agreed to. It's done. Done deal. 6 years, $114 million.
I wonder if Von Miller kind of really pushed the issue with there, because there's a couple other defensive free agents that the Broncos actually let go, guys who made money. One of them's on Jacksonville. There's that defensive lineman. I can't remember his name at the moment.
Yeah.
But they re-signed Von Miller. It's when they lost that QB, or when they lost Peyton Manning and they don't have a QB replacement whatsoever at this point, it kind of became a situation where they're not going to win in the next 3 years, so why give those guys, once you win a championship, you don't want to give those guys championship money, because that usually will cost you in the end, right? That's how teams get broken up. So they didn't do that with 2 or 3 players, but they decided to do it with Von Miller, and I don't know whether it's because Von Miller forced the issue or because Von Miller's worth it.
And this isn't baseball. This isn't you can just keep spending and spending and spending. There's a cap. There's a cap that everybody needs to be aware of. Yeah. So this is where my whole philosophy of, like, you need to just be a team player here and allow especially a team that you know is going to spend. Like, John Elway isn't afraid of spending money. He had the Peyton Mannings, and he splurged to get Aqib Talib and all those guys. So you know he's going to do what it takes to win. So that's out of the question. So you got to just let him bring in pieces to keep this team contending and win more championships.
Mm-hmm.
But what you mentioned, it was Malik Jackson who they let go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they also let Danny Trevathan go to the Chicago Bears.
Thank you. Yeah.
So they essentially used all three of those players' money to just extend Von Miller for a long time.
That's what it looks like. Absolutely.
And that's going to hurt because those three guys played three different key positions. You had Trevathan was a linebacker, and then Jackson was also another guy that was up on the D-line. So those are going to be two huge holes in that Denver defense.
That's exactly how championship teams get broken up. The guys want more money, and you can only pay one of them. So, I mean, it's going to be a down year for the Broncos. I think that goes without saying.
Don't tell the Spurs that. Don't tell the Spurs that.
It's going to be a down year.
On to more money. Tyrann Mathieu. This is actually breaking news. Tyrann Mathieu actually agreed to an extension just now for 5 years and $62.5 million to remain with the Cardinals.
Honey Badger, I mean, he's one of the best safeties in the league. So, I mean, I don't really know what else to say about this trade other than that.
He's been so injury prone, though. He's so injury prone.
Yeah,
you can't deny that.
That's true. He got hurt at the end of season. At the end of last season, it may have cost him.
It's the second significant injury he's had in his career, though. I don't know if the first one was in college or earlier on in his NFL career, but he's had significant injury problems, and that's a significant investment to make in a guy like that.
Well, good thing it isn't guaranteed.
It isn't all guaranteed.
It isn't all guaranteed. So but. He's so good when he does play that I feel like the risk is worth it. Like at a 12.5 per year, I don't think that's a bad deal for what he brings to the field. I mean, he's sideline to sideline as a safety, ball hawk, hard hitting. He completes that defensive backfield along with
Peterson. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he completes that backfield, that defensive backfield with them. So I think that was good money spent by the Arizona Cardinals because he's always scared me whenever he's on the field. Not Patrick Patterson. That's the basketball player. Oh, Patrick Peterson.
I was right. I said
all right,
Peterson.
Okay. So my bad. So yeah, I think it's a good deal. You're right about the injury concerns. It is money for a guy who has gotten hurt twice severely. Last year arguably could have cost them their big chance at going to a Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl. But when you have that much intensity on the field from a defensive position, like that's Ed Reed, like you don't get rid of. I look at him as like the new Ed Reed, and I don't think you get rid of Ed Reed no matter what. Couple more deals.
Yeah, some not so flashy or big news or deals to look at. First, Ryan Fitzpatrick re-signed and ended that long, what do you want to call it, a standoff between
not a holdout.
the Jets between the Jets and Fitzpatrick. I think he's a little bit overrated, to be honest. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback.
You're absolutely right, but
he's like a less glamorous Alex Smith.
Yeah, he could, but his argument, he can just go, you guys have Geno Smith. I'm just gonna sit here and wait. Like that's all you have. Like he didn't have to do much to get his money. Just hold out as long as possible until.
But they were the only team that were really interested in him.
Yeah. That was the gamble. That was the gamble without a doubt. But I mean, he came out. He was only $12 million above what he wanted, or not above what he wanted, but above what it was first reported he was going to get. I thought it was like $8 million or something like that, 8 to 10. So for him to get 12 1 year.
Well, he wanted multiple years.
Oh, he wanted multiple years. Okay.
So he may have taken a slightly less average annual salary to increase his years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess he'll take the 1 year, $12 million. You know, it's $12 million's a lot of money still, folks.
And the Jets kind of think they have a chance this season.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Like they're hopeful. They don't. Says the Patriots fan, but they're hopeful.
They don't. Jimmy Garoppolo's going to take us 4-0, and then Brady's going to do the rest.
12-0.
Just look at how many times a non-Patriots team has won the the AFC East in the past decade. And that's all the proof I need.
Yeah.
All the proof I need.
Okay.
Rob Gronkowski, Julian Edelman, all those guys. And the Patriots just have one of the better organizations around.
That's definitely true.
David Amerson, also, we're going to give you a little bit of hometown news. David Amerson, he used to play for the Washington Redskins, was waived by them, kind of given up on. The Raiders took a chance on him, and he actually played pretty solid for them. So They rewarded him with a 4-year deal to stay in Oakland, so it's nice to see the Raiders actually dealing out some contracts, getting some continuity there, having some guys locked up long-term, and they're starting to kind of finally come out of the mud a little bit and like make this a really viable franchise.
Yeah,
again.
Reggie McKenzie has, as a objective fan, I'm in the ballpark that Reggie McKenzie is a good GM, and he's making the moves that the Oakland Raiders are going to be busting out with whether it's this season or next season. He's made smart moves in the draft. He's made smart free agent signings, and he's re-signed his players that he needs to resign to low deals that don't break the bank. So he's by the blueprint building the Raiders back up. So yeah, I'm pumped to watch some Raiders football next season because I know Niners football is going to be so bad.
Yeah. All right, so we want to thank you again for coming out for another edition of the Dub and Harmon Show. Draymond, take care of those picture problems, man. Work on that selfie game.
BDD is now MDD.
All right, social media. You can hit me up at Dalton Wicks on the tweets, also on Facebook as well.
I'm at EH24 the Mamba on Twitter, at EH24 the Mamba on Snapchat, Harmon24 on Instagram, Dub and Harmon Show on Dub and Harmon Podcast on iTunes, Spreaker, YouTube. I think we're good.
Yeah,
got it.
Interact with us on Facebook and stuff. Let Eric know what his new Twitter name should be. He'd surely appreciate it. Yeah, sub to us on iTunes. If you want to hear more of this, we'll be back next week.
All right, folks, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good night, whatever you're doing. Hope it's a good time.
You stay classy.